preparing live stream. Let's go. Here we are, another creative session in the middle of the holidays for me.
Yeah, I went to bed very late. Meeting. I didn't sleep well. I had running a tiny bit of temperature.
Uh-oh.
And which was, inevitably I had a deliverable of a big presentation today. So inevitably I did everything until late in the morning yesterday. My original plan was to have it done on Friday, but I failed.
Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, as John Lennon said.
Exactly. I did have fun this weekend, though. I went to a super funny Instagram. It's funny how all the there's so many museums and exhibits that are clearly just designed with Instagram in mind.
I can imagine that's a good thing, right? Isn't that a good thing?
Yes and. Pop art, which is a balloon museum from Germany. So there's a big installation with a lot of balloons and literally just scenes with boxes and colors where they're designed to take a photo. And the whole text at the opening of the exhibit was clearly marketing speak from an ad. And it actually seems like this is my cynical brain that works in marketing and advertising, but hey.
Of course, yeah.
It's a marketing ploy to sell the products of this company that makes balloons. but it's also an awesome exhibit.
So this is really interesting because it does relate to what I want to talk to you about. So we have done a creative session about note taking before, and I think we might have even done it and different apps and stuff.
Yes.
The thing, so I had this thing.
I always consider you a much better, much more organized note taker than I am. But I am. I'm a massive nerd. I use it always. Just like I used Evernote every day, but to the minimal use of the thing. I probably used about 5% of Evernote's capabilities, just like I use probably less than 5% of Rome's, but I use it every day.
So this is a thing that happened. This I think ties together what I'm about to say, but also what you just said about everything being Instagram friendly. So my computer was dying, and I don't know what. And it turns out it was because I didn't have enough. I need to free up some memory. I would go on a website, it would crash. I would go somewhere else, it would reboot. I was frightened I was going to lose everything. And then I was like, hang on a second. 90% of what I do is already backed up in the cloud. Why am I freaking out? Right. I just need to go and delete some stuff. So I had some old podcast videos and a whole bunch of stuff. I deleted it, freed up loads. So I freed up 10% of the memory. Yeah. And it all started working. But there was that moment of, what if I lose everything? It's my life's work. It's my,
I was only half listening because I was looking for something. I'm sorry. What did you think you were losing?
Loads of the documents that I had saved, like my life's work, that cheesy thing of all the stuff I've been working on. Oh my God, it's going to disappear. So, and then realizing that it was all backed up in the cloud. But it brought to mind the thread that the guy who created Rome got me really thinking about is when I'm taking notes, it's actually my thinking. How I take notes influences my thinking.
Yes.
If an art exhibit is set up for Instagram is influencing the art exhibit in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect. It's a whole circular thing of how our minds
everything
work.
Visual influences the exhibition in a way that is interesting, but then there's very little place really, I think, for the art. So you're not learning anything, you're taking photos. But that's not bad necessarily. Not necessarily bad. But really who's being served is Instagram as a business.
Yeah. Which goes back to no logo and all of that stuff.
Anyhow. So I was about to say that I watched a few note-taking videos and we talked about note-taking before. And I'm thinking, and I should have done it, I've thought about it a few times, and I'd put it back to later because I was procrastinating, of switching or at least trying and testing another note-taking app, which is a newer competitor to the one that I'm using, which is Rome. So you're still using Evernote. I used for context and for anybody who's thinking we're going to play RPGs, which I don't think anybody does that, but we might, but it's some other point. So I used to use Evernote. You use Evernote.
Yeah.
And then I really got hyped up by Rome in 2020.
You drank the Kool-Aid.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Like, we watched a video about somebody who really drank the Kool-Aid, and I became a believer. Because there's a believer plan where you sign up for 5 years. It's like the only way for it to be vaguely affordable is to sign up for a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And so I'm 2 years into my 5-year plan, and I'm thinking of switching. Well, this lady even invested in the company, which I find even more interesting. Somebody who shares about note taking and software and development and etc. We can put the links in. But I forgot to share the other video that I watched from Thiago Forte, who talks about productivity, has courses on, has a course called Building a Second Brain. I've never done the course, but I've watched a few videos.
I'd like to do what he does. I reckon I could do what he does, but he's awesome, I think.
Why don't you do that?
There's
a lot of them. When you get into it, there's so many people doing courses of productivity and notes.
Yeah.
Also of people using things in a way that I'm like, I'm never going to do that. Because some of it is complex, particularly when you start going into Rome. There's a lot of programmers that use it.
Yeah, there are.
A lot of really edgy PhD student professors and writers that take notes in a way that I'm like, I feel
in a couple of years.
Inadequate just watching the videos where they're describing how they do things. And I'm like, you do what? Okay, I'm going to go for a nap.
I would do it for teachers.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. It's always nice that you're enthusiastic and encouraging, but I feel stupid watching those. And I know that you do a lot more notes. Like, you systematically take notes about what you learned or what you read in a book, I think, right?
It depends on the book, and yes.
And I think I should, and mostly I don't.
But most of the way that I do it is that I condense the entire book into 5 sentences and put it on my blog.
Yeah, but that would take me not that would take me too long. I just don't do it. I put it to later and then start reading another book.
This goes into this idea of the act of creating something, whatever it is, even this live stream, we don't really care whether everyone watches it or not, but creating something reinforces it in my brain and puts it in my brain in a different way that makes it way more useful.
Oh, totally. But then just like the document I did for my clients, it was way over ambitious compared to what I promised and what I thought I was going to do. I really got into it, and then I ended up working until the early hours of the morning to get it done in a way that was presentable. My point being, I did it because I had a deadline and I was being paid to do it. Writing a 5-sentence thing of a book is very easy to put to later.
Yeah, of course it is. I'm not being paid for it. I do it just.
No. I know you're not. I'm only criticizing my own behavior, really.
Now, so you watched the Thiago Forte video. I want to know about this.
Yeah.
There are different kinds of note takers.
He talks about, and this is a 2-part video on how to choose your note-taking app. So you're going to like it. It's 10 minutes and 10 minutes.
Does he talk about Obsidian?
Yeah. He talks about even other apps if you want to try. There's one called Bear that I never heard of.
I've heard of Bear, but that's Mac only.
There's 4 big ones on the market. There used to be 3, and Obsidian's the 4th. Mm-hmm. So, and he also refers to note-taking archetypes that were created by another person that he refers to in the video, but I can't remember her name. It's a she, that's as much as I remember. So he talks about 3 or 4, but 4 really, note-taking archetypes. The archetype, the gardener, the librarian.
The architect.
Architect.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, architect. Yeah. I said architect. Architect.
Yeah.
Architect.
Yeah.
Gardener.
Yeah.
Librarian.
Okay. That's it?
The 4th is the student.
Okay.
The 4th is a catch-all. The 4th is I don't know which one I am.
Okay.
The 4th is I don't know which one I am. You're a student of note-taking, and you can use whatever or go with Google Keep or Apple Notes.
Yeah. Okay.
To start with, or any one of the others if you're inspired by one more than another.
Because
so it's a catch-all.
Those 3 things you also said apply to writers.
So they're almost the same, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where that comes from.
Okay.
Because the architect and the gardeners are two. I've read this in multiple things about writing. Are two sides of a spectrum that writers tend to fall into.
Yeah.
The architect is the planner that's going to plan the chapter, what the book is about, the content of a book, the characters, and have a framework for what the book is all about. Whereas the gardener is just going to start writing and then figure out how it comes together later. So you, at some point, even if you're a planner, at some point you just have to write. And even if you're a gardener, gardener because you're planting seeds and seeing how it grows, just literally writing, and then you see there's a point where you do have to structure it.
Yeah.
So you can't be only one, or well, yes, or you're an unpublished writer like I am, with nothing finished. So I'm so much of a gardener that I have nothing finished, and actually, it's got nothing to do with the gardening. I just don't spend enough time writing. And I like 2 months ago, I wanted to get back into writing, and now every day in my journal, I'm like not ticking the thing saying I wrote, and I'm like, anyway, I don't know how to structure my life to make this happen. Anyway, whatever. It's a reminder. I'll get back to it. I had a big crunch for this project and a bunch of other things I was doing. Time flies.
I'm still kind of jealous.
I'm waiting to be on holidays, and then this afternoon I have to clean my apartment. So anyway, what?
I'm still kind of jealous of how much you read. I never seem to.
Yeah, I'm really putting some effort into reading now. I think I should spend more time and effort on taking notes from reading and or synthesizing, but I am really putting the effort into the reading. I'm very serious. That I'm very happy about, and surprising. I'm still surprised how much I managed to also watch TV shows and even a few movies.
Oh, you wanted to
even occasionally play video games. Huh?
That was one of your things for the year, watching more movies.
Yeah, I'm probably still watching more TV shows than I am movies, but I'm playing a tiny bit of video games, but it must have been already a couple of months since I played video games. So
the note taking.
Back to the archetypes. Architects, it's similar to what I described for the writing. Is architects have a structure and plan to their notes. Gardeners are just kind of like not unstructured in their note taking. They just take the notes about whatever and then figure out how it works later. And the librarians are very structured, even more structured perhaps than the architect, and want to remember everything, categorize everything. I can't remember what he says. I'm not doing it justice, to be honest. But the interesting point is that there's an app for each. So Evernote's for the architect, Notion is for the librarian, and Roam is for the gardener. But now there's also Obsidian. So you have Obsidian or Roam for the gardener. And then the student, he talks about all the other note-taking apps. And he shares information from all his different levels of courses of asking people what note-taking app they're using. So Evernote's in the lead, and then Notion, and then Roam has grown because it got a lot of hype, and then but then it decreased a bit, and Obsidian grew instead. So they're still the smaller ones, but it seems to have picked people from Notion as well as from Roam. And some of the reasons why people are leaving Roam is the overhype, that whole cult status, that apparently the leader and or founder and or community's arrogance is part of it. And he also talks in his thing about the note-taking app and tool you want to use is the one that matches more your note-taking style, but also the community you're joining, which is a really funny thing. But I do watch some videos, but I am not contributing a part of the community. I'm watching these videos of people that are on Slack and or whatever other tools, talking with other people about very complex things about note-taking and programming involved to make your note-taking adapted to whatever. And I'm way out of my league on that side of things.
This begins to get interesting because I'm teaching myself Python and SQL, and then I was wondering, like, what would it be like to have my own start putting custom things in something like Obsidian, or like, could I do that? Would I do that? That would be fascinating, because I think listening to what you're saying about Architect, I use Evernote and probably very much an architect with the way all my notes are put together. But when I'm taking notes, I'm just like, whatever comes to my mind, I put down. It varies by subject. So I took notes on a video that one of my colleagues sent me that I said I would summarize. And I was very structured in the way I took notes. I used the Cornell method. Would you believe?
I don't know the Cornell method.
Really? It's super famous.
I don't know anything. I'm sure it's super famous.
I thought you'd know it.
No.
That's why I thought you said it. So it's a way of taking notes in the lecture. There's a particular layout to the page.
Okay, so I'm just looking
stuff.
at the overlay on the video. So the takeaway is architects create systems.
Yeah.
Gardeners explore.
Yeah.
And
librarians catalog.
Research. They do research and track all their research.
I'm close to
architects are around systems, gardeners are about exploration, and librarians about research.
Yeah, I'm not really.
And so the I was mistaken. The architect is Notion. I thought so as well, because Notion.
Oh, okay.
I've never used Notion really, and the librarian is Evernote,
wow.
Which also matches the brand idea and the brand positioning. It's an elephant. You remember everything. You can categorize every type of different kinds of media, which you can with the others, but Evernote is particularly well suited for that. Notion, however, on the other hand, is a blank canvas to create your system.
Sorry, say that again, because you kind of cut out. My internet went a bit unstable. Okay. So you were saying about Evernote is very good for?
Evernote, so it makes sense now that I'm really reading the things. A librarian collects and categorizes. And Evernote, it matches their brand promise, idea, logo, etc. The elephant is remember everything.
Yep.
And the way their app is structured is to make it easy to capture every type of media possible and keep it.
Yeah.
So if you're collecting all kinds of media, then it's particularly appropriate for you, which is one thing that I never used Evernote for. Not never, but almost never. I mostly had written notes.
Right.
I never used anything else capturing of any kind. I just didn't, or not really. I always thought that's one of the reasons I thought I didn't really use it to its full potential. Whereas, and I think Thiago Forte is more of a librarian, he uses Evernote. Whereas Notion is a blank canvas by default. When you start, you can create anything of a system, folders, files, organization, naming things. But it's still the file and folder system, as far as I know, because I've never used Notion. So which is why it matches more of a person creating a system for how they want to remember things from the ground up. So it's like that's where the architecture blueprint type thing.
Because I've used Notion when I've had things shared with me. And I think Notion does a good job of you can share things with other people and invite them into a structure.
You can work as a team, yeah. But you can also just do it for yourself.
You can. I did look at Notion, and I think the fact it was a blank canvas almost put me off. I don't know.
Oh, the blank canvas was a bit of a. Although I mean,
there's
technically Rome is a blank canvas as well, right?
Yeah. I don't know what put me off Notion. Something put me off Notion. I'm not sure what it was. The other thing that put me off Rome is there's no app. I'm using Evernote all the time. For the beginning, I don't even know if I will move from Evernote based on what you're saying.
But the four we're talking about represent 75% of note takers anyway.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Of the research he was able to do. So people who follow Thiago Forte, which is not that surprising. But when we talk about the universe, and then there's a few outliers, one called Bear and one called Logsec or Seg, something like that. I can't remember.
Okay, Bear is Mac only.
Huh?
Bear is Mac only.
Oh, you know it. Of course you know it. I don't know it.
Yeah. So I looked at it. And well, as far as I remember, it was. There wasn't an Android one, so I just discounted it. But
So then other small things about Obsidian. So Rome, everything is online on their servers.
Yeah.
So that was one reason that we watched the video of this lady going, well, I'd rather have it on mine. And the notes are in a format that is more transferable to other things. They're just text files. really.
Now that's the really intriguing
Which
thing
was
for
one
me.
thing that's one reason that I'm like, yeah, maybe I want that actually. Because
Yeah,
my room takes a while to fire up. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah. The idea
And
of
I've
it
not even
being
transferred all my
locals.
notes from Evernote. It was just a pain to do that.
Well, she mentions that in the video too. So you should theoretically be able to transfer everything from Evernote to Obsidian relatively easily, right? I don't know.
Apparently, it would be easier to transfer from Evernote to Obsidian than it has been to transfer into Rome, which is like near impossible. Or really not easy. I could do one note at a time or copy and paste
Oh,
or import. It was just like impossible. I had 10,000 notes or 20, 15,000. I can't
in
remember.
Evernote. And how many
Yeah,
you got in Rome then?
I don't know. There's no numbers. The
Oh yeah,
graph, I'll tell you what, the graph is not particularly useful. That's for sure.
it's just a big wall of things, isn't it?
Yeah. And then there's a tiny little thing, which is on the written notes on Obsidian can be written normal paragraph or can be written in bullet points. Whereas Rome is everything's a bullet point and everything's a long list. Which
Oh,
is one thing that I'm just occasionally slightly miffed about.
so you can't write in prose?
No.
Oh,
Well, I mean, you could, technically you can go back to the line of prose if you press shift, shift and entry,
okay.
but the format is everything's a bullet point. The interesting point is because every bullet point is a separate entity.
Right, which means it can link to everything else.
It does link to everything else, and it's like a page and an element of its own, each bullet point. But it's
Okay.
separate from a page. A page is a page, but a bullet point is also a bullet point. You could click on a bullet point, and you only have that bullet point open.
Okay.
Which, for my purpose, I don't know is that useful. It sounds cool, but I'm not sure if I found it very useful.
Because when I looked at when you shared your Rome graph thing, whatever you want to call it, briefly, you do have lots of other links in there. It seems like it can handle.
Yeah, I try to improve and add all the linked and unlinked references, which Rome does as Obsidian apparently does too. I'm clearly more of a gardener, which is why I'm which in writing as well. So that whole idea of Rome was very attractive to me.
Yeah.
Which is why I signed up and I became a believer, which is silly, but anyway. Particularly they're not very active in their community or anything, and I'm certainly not a programmer, and I'm not using. I watched some tutorials and I have a little bit of a system. Did I show you? Do you want me to show you?
You did. You mentioned it. I haven't seen it.
No, I mean it's really not very anything too crazy, but I'll share it.
I mean, while you're looking, you've got. Oh, there's the video. Second brain with the symbols.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at that. Okay, so you'll see how long it takes to fire up the app to begin with. Anyway, there is a phone app now,
which
and it's very basic.
To the website.
It doesn't do anything like Evernote, although it sort of does. So first, it opens up on the day. So the base is the day.
Okay, that looks very similar to Evernote in some ways.
So this I created.
Right.
I created, and I thought I'm going to have a categorization like this. Now I don't really actually use it very much.
Okay.
I have here, this is my daily journal. So I have a template. Oh, it's here when you click on the bullet point, it goes, that's the bullet point.
Okay, I see.
To go back to daily notes. Why can't I open this? What's going on? Oh, I know. Okay, so I'm going to do, that's my journal. These are my templates that I just barely learned how to use to be able to have my daily journal.
Okay.
And so you open it up, and that's my daily journal. So I have that for my entry for the day. And if I click on here, I will have all the entries. So 55 linked references. That's every journal entry that I've done because I started this. I changed some questions in June. So I have one from January to June and one from June. So these are all the journal entries. And then in terms of pages, let's see. So, oh, I forgot that I had a thing called metadata. Of course, nothing is just, so this is something I picked from one person who put a lot of videos.
Mm-hmm.
So I copied their style. And then I have one structure of a page. I'll just go to a random page. I'll give you an idea. Okay, so my pages, every time I create a page, not every time, not every time at all, but I should have one thing that as my first bullet point is all the tags.
Yeah.
So whatever I think this thing is related to, I'll jot in there. So
Which means you can then link it to everything else.
Yeah, so then when I'm trying to find it, I have multiple ways to remember it. That's what it is. It's just to remember that, okay, if I try to find something, I can look through marketing, through education, through communications, through whatever. So then actually I'll go to projects. I have more examples there that are more relevant. Okay, so projects C. This was supposed to be one of my top line categorizations, and I didn't even put anything there.
So that stuff on the left where it says project, people, places, part, all of that. You
I
came
added
up with those.
Yeah,
you added that.
I created them.
Okay.
I created I created these as my important categories.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
so you want to know you're in there?
Of course,
there you go.
I should hope I'm in there.
So James, you have a UK. You're connected. So I did this before. You have your strengths. A thing called entrepreneur that has no other reference.
Which is
because every time, and then I spend some time, I'm like, oh, I should create tags, and then I stop and I move on to something else. All right, so these are all work things.
Oh yeah,
so this was a work thing, for example. So okay, so this is a good example. This one has all the different tags. Every tag is a page. Then I have the date I created the page, then just a couple of things, and then the content. And so every time it's just like boxed in stuff. They're all bullet points. If I go to writing, so I can either create a new page or I have this page with a capital. So how many notes I have, pages, no idea. I took a while to move 84 writing notes from Evernote to Rome, and I had to do it like manually, which was super annoying.
And these are all your writing ideas?
Yeah, these are all random writing ideas. It's your random daily ideas. This is just some writing, bullet points. And there's no button to come back, which is so annoying.
Oh, so you can't just click. Oh, I see.
No, on the website you can, but not on this, which is crap, I think. Then I have 128 linked references. So these are all the references in pages that have, and so I have every time the first is reference the first bullet. So I have some reference to when this was created and what other tags are referenced in there. So I get an idea what this is about. But most of it, I rarely have. Sometimes I copy and paste a bunch of links when I'm doing research for clients, but I don't really, and occasionally put videos or PDFs, but mostly I don't really use it to put documents in there. So this app, I think, doesn't do, you can, but as we watched that video from that lady who found herself not using things, and then you can have a second column here. So
so
you can work on two things at a time.
The project that you just did.
And then there's the graph, which is not very useful in Rome, to be honest.
This was the thing that intrigued me most about Rome. So the project that you just did, did you use Rome for it, or did you have other ways of collecting all the stuff?
Rome and I mean, yes.
Oh my God.
So I guess this is how many pages I have.
Each blob is a page.
Each dot
bullet note,
I believe, is a page, and then there's the connections.
Yeah. And like you said this isn't very useful.
Well, I don't know. How would you use this?
Yeah. Because
I mean, ideally, the other thing is ideally I should spend a lot more time referencing and connecting everything, but I don't have time for that.
I would just
use writing is one of the biggest connections because I spent some time on the page.
Yeah.
And I copied a bunch of stuff. And I have writing project. Then there's another big one here. That might be a day. I don't know. A day that I decided to organize things. Oh, to do, obviously. Yeah, that makes sense. Then you can move it, but there's one called guitar.
You've got guitar there. Wow.
Sure. I
That's
mean, I have
interesting.
just anything and everything that I think could be a reference is a page, whether there's content in it or not.
The Matrix Resurrection.
Oh yeah, because I create when I list movies. So I created a list this year for movies I went to see and watched the last year.
Okay.
So, but then that I only have just the fact that I watched it. That's
Okay.
as far as it goes. You can filter in or out things that you see, which I never used. So,
It's one of those things that looks cool, but when you actually get into the day to day, what do you use it for?
that's what everybody's feedback about this particular thing is. It takes a long time to load. See, and just every day there's a new note anyway. So, and it's good. Well, I do use, so it's cool. I use my journal because I was trying to remember what I did. That's one thing that is good about journaling, regardless.
Yeah.
But that's not really about the platform. Is I didn't remember what I did for my birthday last year, and I just looked in here.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I need to remember things. I'm not being very good with my journal at the moment, but places, people, and past is, I don't know, something. There's nothing in there really. Oh yeah, there's these things. These are important, I guess. So yeah.
I think in the spirit of sharing, I should show you my Evernote. Have you seen my Evernote? I don't even know.
So
if
yeah,
you've
but
seen it.
the interesting thing with Rome that I had a little bit of hard time to get to, that sometimes I find a bit confusing,
Mhm.
is the change from a computer structure that I'm used to, that I had in Evernote,
Yeah, like the directory, the folder, all that kind of thing.
files and folders, and an organization like that. Because you have nothing in front of you, you have to think about things. Now, there's a lot of different ways to remember them, and they give you new ideas when you go and look at things. So that's still good. But it takes some thinking to organize. And I watched other videos on how people organize topics. So, for example, one thing that I've seen that I do is to have topics, for example, a project for work or a RPG game. Then I have the new page will have the client / project / specific of what I'm doing. So that then it's kind of a structure within the page to inform how the topic is organized.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, play around with it, because it's not going to be in a easy directory. There's no directory. You can create
Yeah.
one, but then you have to update it.
Yeah. And
So the thing that it does is update and create pages. So that's great. It does that, but it doesn't create a directory.
well, that was the thing that when watching the videos about Rome that I thought was attractive. Is just you've got your everything there connected to everything else that you can just follow your train of thought
Yes.
and get what you need,
So
supposedly.
it feels on one hand more natural, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
On another hand, I've been taught, and everybody, or at least us, our generation's been taught to use computers in such a way that it kind of messes with the usual way of using forms, directories, files, folders.
I tell you, the game changer for me was I read GTD, I read Getting Things Done, and I pretty much follow it. But it was the filing system of just one folder with everything related to that one thing. So sometimes when people look at my OneDrive at work, there's loads and loads of folders, but I never have to go more than one level down. Very, very rarely.
Oh, I have like boxes within boxes within boxes.
Because nested folders add the theory, and I don't know if Thiago Forte talks about this, but nested folders add to the cognitive load of trying to find something. My thing was I just open the folder, it's there.
But
And
then, you have a lot of folders, but not a lot of categories. Not a lot of nesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I have nesting because otherwise, how would I organize? It would be just a cacophony of things. I do on my computer. I do with Evernote, or I did.
Let me show you. This is my Evernote. So they changed the functionality on the home screen. You have a scratch pad.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Which you can. I probably shouldn't have that there. You can add whatever you want to. If a random thought, copy paste, put it there. I've got some shortcuts here.
Isn't it funny to share this because it's so personal? My thing's personal, so I was like, "Ooh, very
I
careful
know.
about what I was sharing earlier."
I know. I was thinking that too. And then down here, I've got my main notebooks of what I'm doing. So
Do
if
you
I come
use
up,
Stacks?
no,
I use Stacks.
I don't use
I have
stacks.
Stacks and notebooks in Stacks and notes in
No,
notebooks.
no.
Is that
One,
back to the same idea that we just talked about,
yeah,
the
it is.
folders and
So
directories? I know
I've got
I have to organize things in such a way because otherwise,
I can't. So I've got like create Willem and James. I go there. These are all the notes to do with teaching tangents or anything.
cool.
So it's like whatever it is. And then, and then I've got like what I'm doing, what's
Yeah.
happening, the projects. But like the, I can't.
Do you delete notes?
I do actually.
That's something I don't do.
I do. But I mean, I have an art. I have getting things done is very. It's actually quite complicated when you first look at it,
Mm.
but is actually very intuitive. Like, don't keep anything in your head. Just get it out. Just put it in terms of the next thing you're going to do, and organize projects. The projects thing makes a big difference for me, but the filing thing was the game changer. One file for everything, shove it all in there. It means I can pick it up and everything I need is in there. And or physically and online too. And my Evernote mirrors that. But the day-to-day stuff and week to week, I use my journal, which is not here. I just
I think the last entry I have in the Mind Journal is from last year.
I use well, I got two journals. So I use a James Clear journal and my end of day journal.
James Clear Journal is still immaculately empty.
So you type your journal, don't you? Your daily journal.
Yeah.
I can't. I need to physically write it. Something about pen to paper that makes it cool.
A very bad writer, and I don't. It's worse. I mean, I'm in front of my computer almost all the time, and I already fail to write. But opening a notebook is a whole other big barrier for me.
Because
I don't do that. I haven't been writing anything physically for ages. I do start to take notes in the notebook at the moment for work and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So that's something, but
my writing is terrible.
My writing is absolutely horrible.
It seems like I'm not. Sometimes I will write stuff at school. It's like, okay, I'm going to show you. This is my Cthulhu Confidential notes.
Ooh, very nice.
Like, good luck trying to read them. Occasionally, I'll write something and I can't read it. It's just is hilarious. But
I think it happens to most people.
No, no. It doesn't happen to Davina, definitely. So, but writing my journal, I love the ritual of that. The end of the day, and physically getting a cool pen and writing. Makes me feel really good. And I do a lot of brain, and they're all in pencil. My journal isn't in pencil, but the scribbles, or when I suddenly have a thought in my journal and like plan out my week, pencil.
It also matches with your lifestyle, I think, right? You've had the same job for a very long time, the same schedule for a very long time, the same house for a very long time.
It's very true.
Things that I don't have. I mean, I do more now. I've been in the same house for 3 years, and actually just about. So that's something, and I'm only just getting used to it. There's tons of things that I still haven't really done the way I want them to in the house, but I'm having more structure. But I'm independent. My projects and rhythm of work changes all the time. So having a regularity is my daily meditation and journaling, and even that goes out the window very easily.
Mm. It is interesting noticing when I'm on holidays, I get up and do all my important things first. But when I'm not on holidays, I have to beat paces. I have to be at school or whatever. Then I'll squash in my daily routines at some other point. So this morning I got up, did I tend to exercise in the morning, but then I also play my guitar, did a bit of coding, did a bit of gratitude, did my meditation. I would never normally do all that in the morning. But if I don't do it in the holidays, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. It's pretty amazing that you do all these things already to begin with. Like exercising is something gone out the window very fast. I haven't been running in a month.
I have to say, if I don't exercise, I feel rubbish. I never thought I'd say that ever, ever, ever. I never thought I'd say that, but some part of me enjoys it because I'm back doing urban Krav Maga. I've done 2 sessions,
Oh, cool.
and it wasn't even. This is the funny part, right? So it wasn't in a gym; it was outside in the urban jungle, and it was a whole different experience because it felt pretty real. Like we were doing a drill where someone barges past you and they go, "What are you doing?" And they get in your face, and like we're standing underneath in this little kind of.
Wow, that's different, right?
It's totally different. We're standing in this walkway next to this block of flats. Like it feels like something out of, you know, what's the French film that gave birth to parkour?
La Haine. No,
No,
Yamakasi.
no, it wasn't. Bonlieu 13 or something?
That's later, isn't it?
Was
Wasn't
it later? I
Yamakasi
don't know.
before?
It
I'm
might
not
be. I
sure.
don't know. But that's the one I'm thinking of, like Suburb 13 or whatever it's called, District 13 or whatever. That it's felt, or yeah, it felt like that, something ridiculous. And practicing that, I suddenly feel like, oh, I feel a bit more physically in contact with myself again. But honestly, the habits and the exercising, I can't. I feel I can do more stuff, like keep up with my nephews, because
Yeah.
it wasn't going to happen. So I mean,
Yeah.
I do think there's something about wedging in that important stuff.
Yeah, no, and the exercise, but I agree with the general principle of if you don't do it first in the morning, the chances of it happening at all decrease seriously. That's the case with my meditation. If I don't meditate first thing in the morning, it's unlikely I will.
And I am thinking of moving to Sam
I do
Harris's app.
manage. Oh,
I'm thinking of moving to waking up because you
try.
use
I can
Sam
give you a
Harris's
free
app.
month if you want.
It's you do 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
See, that seems
There's
like a
so
lot
much more
to me.
content on the app that I'm not listening at the moment, but I'm not really listening to a lot of podcasts at the moment. Well, because I'm reading
You're
more. I
reading
can't do
books.
everything.
Mm.
I started, I'm not sure what I want to read right now. I started Free to Learn, which is okay. I started, I want to keep reading Homo Ludens. I'm reading a manga as well that I've had for Christmas.
I can't. I almost don't want bullshit jobs to end.
Oh, where are you at?
I'm taking it. I mean, it's like
So good,
enjoying
right?
a fine meal. I'm just reading a little bit and going, oh.
I may well go and read his book about the history of debt.
That
I
was
saw
meant to
it.
be his magnum opus.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this, and I looked at it in the bookshop. And it's
bigger,
this
right?
big. Yeah. I was like, ooh, that sounds a bit scary. But then when I'm reminded how well he writes, I'm like, I think I should really read this.
Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. The horror. I will do a summary of it. I'm going to recommend it to all the sixth formers at school. Read this book.
Yeah, I've recommended it to a bunch of my students as well.
It'll make you think. It would.
So, what's your any takeaways so far, or things that you're thinking? Because I know it's like it gets speechless. I'm glad that you're raving about it as much as I am. We have a friend in common who's reading it as well. I don't know where he's at with it.
Well, he kind of was like, yeah, I know all this already, and stopped reading it. I don't think he finished it.
Yeah, I think I probably have a very different taste in books.
I don't know if he finishes stuff.
Oh, yeah, he also doesn't do. Yeah, you think you're probably right.
I'll ask him when I speak to him.
But his first impression was he told me that, yeah, I kind of know I'm whatever. Also, I think he decided it was not his world, which I thought was funny. But anyway.
Yeah, because so the main thing for me is realizing that play and autonomy, not so much autonomy, it's I can do something and it has an effect on something. If that's taken away, it rots who we are. I can pick up this mug and I can drink.
Yeah, it's like, agency.
Yeah, and I see it. You see it with kids. Yeah, I was around a bunch of kids on Saturday and seeing young kids around, like one of them was picking up this plastic skittle and like throwing it, and the noise it was making was immensely gratifying to him. So he kept throwing it, and then I was throwing it, and then I was juggling with it, and then throwing it, and he was like, the look on his face of pure joy of being able to move that thing to there and have that effect, and realizing that a lot of that is taken away in the workplace.
Yeah,
There's
well,
one.
it's interesting because it's taken away for children as well. That's what he
Oh,
talks about in Free to Play that I just started reading as well.
yeah, yeah, I
Free
love
to
that
Learn,
book.
Free to Learn, sorry.
I love that book. It's taken away.
Which is starts pretty heavy. I'm like, oh, okay. But yes, it's good.
Yeah, I really really like that book. That changed my opinion about schools.
I'm sure.
So and what I do, but
But you
I
still
yeah
do it, which is interesting.
yeah I do still do it.
When you read bullshit jobs, would you like, what's the alternative? You could go back into media.
Oh, hang on. Keep monologuing.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what to say. I could talk about Free to Learn. Oh, we could talk about the manga I'm reading.
You can talk about the what?
I'm reading.
What's
I
that?
started reading 20th Century Boys. Classic, but it's a big manga from Naoki Urasawa, who's very famous. Well, famous for mangas. And this is it's quite a big, renowned series called 20th Century Boys. And you could see my brother loves this author, particularly for the very intricate storylines that he creates.
Okay.
And I could see it from the beginning. And there's another brand new series he started. This is like, I think there's 15 or 20 volumes of this size.
Oh my God.
It's a big story. But it starts out even just at the very beginning of this, you have the characters at different timelines and years and different spots that raises a lot of questions where you're like, what is happening here? And apparently he does very complex plots that are really elaborate over a long period. And he has a plan in mind. He knows from the beginning where he wants to go.
He's an architect.
The beginning point is there's these boys were kids in the late 70s. And a number of things happen. And they make predictions about later life, and they have a symbol. And in the 90s, stuff starts happening that they had predicted as children. And as children, they wanted to save the world. And now they're 30-plus-year-olds, and they're finding themselves having to remember what happened when they were kids, because whatever they predicted is happening, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot of flashbacks to a lot of different timelines and all the different characters. And it's just, I'm only halfway through this, and there's just a number of threads that have started. A mysterious organization, people disappearing, a murder that may or may not, that it's all related, obviously, but no idea how. He just starts a lot of threads. And one character who's like, what's going on? It's cool. Apparently it's very, very good. Morgan is like, that's one of his favorite series of all time.
It's intriguing when you hear about that stuff. How do they write stuff like that? He's clearly an architect.
Yeah, apparently he's particularly known for these kinds of very intricate, complex plot lines and complex plots. This is not this. It's quite more of a. It's not Naruto or Dragon Ball where there's just people fighting. It's like a lot more complex.
My nephews.
I love those. I love them too. They're great, but they're not particularly great for. They're good stories, but very, very simple stories.
Yeah, I think I'm really, really into big stories.
I like both. I love reading. I love reading the whole collection of Dragon Ball. I read them all again last year before I gave them to my niece.
I don't remember if I told you I finished the second Dune book.
No, I don't think we talked about it.
I finished Dune Messiah, and I thought it was amazing. First time I read it, and I was going to ask you a question actually. So before I get to my question, it does feel in reading Dune and the first great Dune trilogy that so much other stuff ripped it off. I'm reading it and thinking The Matrix just lifted a whole bunch from Dune. Obviously Star Wars did, but I'm wondering how, which plays into this whole universal story thing. But the question I was going to ask you is, I'm wondering now to myself, is it possible to write a plot and write a story and write a book without being an architect?
No.
It's not, is it?
Well, just like I said earlier, you have the two sides. You can't just be one. You have to be both.
Because
Somehow you'll probably be better at one than the other. Likely. That's what I'm just repeating what others say. But at some point you have to structure your thing, because otherwise it's not going to be very good. And the problem of things that are not very good is that they lack on one side or the other. They either lack in inspiration or they lack in structure.
We took care of our nephews last week, and one of them said, write a story. I was like, okay. And I said, what do you want me to write about? You tell me anything, I'll write a story about it. And he was like, brick. That's what you got to start with. I was like, okay. So I've written a short story about brick. And then Davina, her thing was, he said something equally inane to her. And she started writing and like scribbled it all out. I was like, no, I'll finish it. So I wrote hers as well. I wrote them both in about like 20 minutes each one. But the brick one, I'm actually quite proud of. So I'm probably going to type it up and put it on my blog because I think it's really
but
good.
when you have a prompt or a brief, creativity is channeled and it's a lot easier.
That's true. That is true.
It's constraining. It seems challenging, but you have a direction. When you have a blank page and a project, but no incentive, in my case, but like most cases, I'm not special, I don't think so, but I procrastinate. And just like I didn't procrastinate. I spent a lot of time on client projects, but all of last week, I knew that I needed to start writing my slides, but I didn't have a sufficient satisfying level of information about the area and the sector I was researching.
Right. Okay.
So I did, but I knew I was going late. But then, yesterday was the last day. So
like Calvin and Hobbes
on holidays.
Hobbes asked Calvin, like, you've got an assignment to work on. And Calvin goes, yeah, I'm not in the right kind of mood for it. And Hobbes goes, well, what mood do you have to be in? And Calvin says, last minute panic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
but a good writer or a good anything project, you keep working at it regardless of your mood.
Yeah, that's
true. A professional writer doesn't wait for the inspiration. He writes every day, just like you do with a guitar, just like you do with a meditation. Write every day. And I find it very easy to put out the door. I've started doing it a little bit in the morning, but I haven't really got to a place where and I had this client project to deliver. That was the most important thing. There was no questions about it. I didn't go run. I didn't exercise. For some reason, the meditation is in, so I mostly meditated, even though I should have also gone running twice at least. I should have also been writing a little bit, but I need to codify my writing projects, because otherwise I don't know what I'm writing. It's just, and I've done my sentence a day, and then I gave up. I still am finishing. This is ridiculous. It's August now. The little short story that I started, that I finished my first draft that I sent to you. I started writing the second draft. I'm still not finished with it.
Oh, I never started writing mine. I need to do that. But this does fit in with
now this is 43 years. I have like my 15-year-old self and 14-year-old self that dreamed of writing and finishing a book, and I still haven't done it. If I think about it, it's a bit painful.
Maybe you need
but clearly this was not really a priority, otherwise I would have done it.
Maybe you need the constraints of a PhD.
Maybe, but then I don't. So there's one thing, is the PhD will give me articles and a PhD, but I don't know if it would give me a book. Maybe I would have material for it. I don't know, possibly. So right, I haven't had time to. I had a couple of other. I had one more conversation on my birthday about this with somebody who was doing one, and he was very, really useful to talk to. I want to talk to him more about it. He recommended I look for a teacher and a university or institute, a research lab first. That I find one that matches with my interest, and then
come up with a topic.
Yeah, and then, but I have he was like, you have your topic, you probably have to refine it a little bit, but the most difficult thing is to make sure that your topic matches with your discipline, doesn't go too far away. So for example, I was talking about using play and play techniques within brand strategy. Very quickly, it's like you're going into social psychology.
Yeah.
So how do you, the question is then, can you define your topic in such a way that it remains within communications and doesn't go straight too far into social psychology? or would you need a social psychology master's before you do it? Well, that was my takeaway from it. He didn't say that. He just said you just have to frame it the right way. But he's like, it is definitely psychology. I'm like, yeah, it borrows from it. I'm like, yeah. And he said that all disciplines and all masters do to a degree. However, you have to stick to your kind of major, sort of.
Yeah.
Or you have to have a major of some kind. And mine would be in communication, presumably. Even if it touches upon anthropology or psychology, those have to remain minor and not major. I think that's what I understood, but I have to talk to him again. It was on my birthday, so I was busy.
Is there a lab or a institution that is really specializing in communications?
Yeah, there's a number, but I only had time. I only the first time I looked, and I told you I looked at one, and I looked at a couple of the specialties from the teachers in the communication industry at one particular university, but it's far from being the only one.
I didn't know it was like a. I suppose it would be attached to the business school.
No, universities. No, business schools don't do PhDs.
I mean, the business school within the uni, like the business section of the uni.
No, communication information.
Ah.
The discipline is information and communication.
Okay. I didn't know that. I had no idea where.
Oh, in France it is, and I think in the UK as well.
Okay.
I think mass communication, media and communication, marketing communication.
Okay.
There's different ones. The thing is, I also graduated from a business school, so it makes it that my thing doesn't fit within a traditional university one, which may or may not be an issue. On the other hand, I have a lot of real life practical experience that might be interesting or not, depending.
Yeah.
I was also told, what I think I said already, to position myself as a professional who wants to pursue their career and not as a threat to their academia, apprentices, the people they have under their wing,
professorships or whatever.
Yeah, which are, there's like one for every 1,000 PhDs or whatever, silly numbers.
Oh wow! Okay, that's ridiculous.
Well, I think I saw one thing saying there were 64,000 new PhDs a year. There's in the US.
Okay.
And clearly, there's not that many professor jobs. I don't know how many there are.
It'd be interesting.
And in France, there's only less money, less budget. So I'm not really interested in a professorship anyway.
It would be interesting to know how many of the 64,000 actually complete their PhD.
These are complete PhDs.
Oh, these are complete PhDs.
So, yeah, that's what I found. Maybe I might be misremembering the number, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Wow, that's a lot of PhDs. And it does.
It's not a lot compared to the overall population, but there's still a lot of people that go all that way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it is making me, to vaguely bring it back to what we're talking about, it is making me think about note taking and collecting information. If I'm going to be doing a master's next year, which is what I want to do, I have to apply and get on it.
I would have to seriously up my game on note taking if I want to do and write more on a PhD, but I'm still struggling as to when I would find the time to do it. Yeah. Now, anybody would have the struggle. And I have the time. It's not like I don't. I have the time. I'm sure. I have a lot of leisure time, but I would have to organize my time very differently. I don't know, maybe. But I think the structure, as you said, is something that, and I've already said, is one of the attractive points.
Yeah, it does. It does make, it makes me wonder.
Is your master still an if? I noticed you said if.
Yeah, well, it's a when. The where is an if. The where is like, I don't know.
You talked about it with your work already, right?
Yeah. My one of my.
Why are you doing it in September again?
No, not September. Next year, in May.
Yeah, but why not right now? Because you've talked about it for a while.
Because I wanted to get this. Oh, I think I told you. I wanted to get.
You might have, but I can't remember.
Certification out the way. Lead practitioner.
Oh, that's right. Are you done with it?
Yep, I'm done with it. I got it.
Congrats.
I'm very happy about it. Another little thing I can do, which I just felt a bit more legitimate now in being able to tell other people what to do, kind of thing. So that's done, and now, thank you. And now, serious conversation with my deputy head, who she thinks I'm amazing anyway. And she's another productivity nerd, actually. Honestly, she's the one who told me when I showed her my draft idea for a teacher journal. She was like, "Put it on Etsy and I'll buy it." I was like, okay. So I do want to like keep pursuing and get the money together and apply, and in the application process, it's like, what experience have you got that allows you to do this? What kind of mathsy stuff have you got? I'm like, okay, that's which is why I'm trying to push learning Python.
But
So I can
did you
get my,
talk to anybody about what level you actually needed?
yeah. They
And did they
said
say you need to have a minimum, or you could just like you'll just have to catch up somehow and
it's more of a you'll just
we'll
have to
go?
catch up somehow. But
Yeah.
they said it's designed to be done by professionals while they're working.
Okay.
So,
But all of these things, regardless of the design, is challenging, whatever happens anyway.
well, exactly. It's
But that's part of the idea of taking that kind of challenge on.
exactly. And I think back to when I was doing that year-long course with Landmark. I was doing that. I was head of sixth form. I was head of psychology. I was acting head of business because we had nightmare at school. I wrote 30 blog posts in 30 days one time. All of this all at once. I still went and
Yeah.
saw my parents every week. I'm like, how? I look back and go, how?
I have a lot of those kinds of points about my blog and my website as well.
How the hell did I do that? How did I fit it all in? You just go for it, I guess. I don't know. So, PhD, walk in the park for you. Get sorted, job done, write a book, take over the world.
I also want to, but the summer is going so fast. I thought I would have plenty of time to consider what I'm doing with my website, my blog post, my podcast. And we're already in August and I want to be on holidays.
Speaking of which, we're going on holidays next week. I'm very happy
exciting.
about that.
Super exciting.
And yeah, now
I've heard so many amazing things about Sicily. It's going to be cool.
We're going to be by the beach or relatively close to the beach. I'm going to finish Bullshit Jobs for sure. And I'm going to read at least 2 other books.
It's funny. I had another remark on our readings. Somebody, my girlfriend going, so you find that interesting? It's like, yeah, it's super. So are you working? I'm like, well, sort of. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting to read
Find
essays.
what interesting?
Essays, all the books, the kinds of books that we read.
Oh,
that
right.
was just a mention from, I heard, a portion of the population was like just dubious about why would you read things like that? I'm like, no, I find it super interesting.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't.
Everyone.
It was a good reminder that a lot of people think that that's extremely nerdy. And I don't know how many people. I have no idea.
Just the
like,
2 of us.
Why wouldn't you want to read that? It's super interesting.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you want to? Okay. I guess it's just
I forgot to tell you what was super interesting is I discovered while doing research that my current new client works with strengths.
Oh, wow.
To strengths. And they worked with a coach last year and they offered the top 5 strengths to all their staff. And they worked with a coach on working and including the strengths within their day-to-day work. So they've all done it. So I said, well, great, we can include strengths in the work that we're going to do. So we will in September.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very
cool.
Very I really liked it. It was another testament to how interesting these bunch of people are.
What do they do?
Market research.
Oh, these are the market research guys.
Social intelligence market research.
Yeah, they have a tool and like they do cool stuff for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I think we've reached a natural kind of.
Yeah, we have, and it's a bit late. I want to go grab some lunch. I'm an hour later than you.
Okay. Oh yeah, you are. Yeah.
And I went and that's 3 hours of conference calling.
I'm gonna go look at Obsidian.
Yeah, I should have installed it. It's free to install.
And
use actually. You just pay for features over and above the basic stuff.
I was looking at before we went online. I'm looking at all different pay plans and what it does and all of that.
And a friend started not long ago because there's a lot of use cases for RPGs, including that lady who publishes videos.
She actually had on her YouTube channel. She's got like playing D&D using whatever. Like, so she's interesting character.
Yeah, and there was another one that I read about using Rome, which might be the same person now that I'm thinking about it.
I need to watch that Thiago Forte video.
I'll send it to you right now.
Very excited about watching that.
It's not bad actually, but now I want to watch the lady about the But anyway, it's cool. It's just, but I gave you the summary, but it's still worth watching.
Oh,
But,
I'll watch it.
you
And
know, I
then
think he's
maybe
using still Evernote. I think that's his main primary thing.
okay. I might just end up sticking with Evernote because it
I
seems
found
to
it
work.
interesting that there was the Gardener profile that there were new apps being created for Rome first and then Obsidian, and that the criticisms for Rome are, you know, recurring. There's a few. Now, of course, I think it's also YouTube and Google just serving me things of what's going on. But I'm seeing more videos of people saying they've switched than people saying I still love it and this is why.
Ah,
But I'm not looking for those, and I don't know. I've included some stuff in Rome, but now the learning curve to include and create new things is less interesting to me, I think, so far. Anyway, I don't know, starting something else. Let's go.
we are. Cool. Thank you as ever.